Okay, to finish this module up with fractions, one last thing we have to look at is the concept of mixed numbers and improper fractions. Basically, they mean the same thing. They're just two different ways of saying the same thing. So when I'm looking at a mixed number, right, a mixed number usually has a whole number, right? So we're talking about maybe two whole parts, and then we're adding to that 1/3 of a whole. All right, so we literally read this as 2 plus 1/3. It's one of those rare areas in math where there's nothing in between the two numbers and it's interpreted as addition. It's usually multiplication, but a mixed number is that rare beast where it's actually addition. So we're talking about two full pieces, two full pizzas if you would, and we're adding 1/3 of another. So that's a lot of pizza. Improper wise, what we're talking about is we're talking about a fraction where the denominator is actually smaller than your numerator. So in this case, this is what I have as an improper fraction. So my numerator is 7 and my denominator is 3. So, story wise, we're talking about taking all my whole pieces, breaking them up into thirds, and then we're using 7 of those thirds. So we're way more than a full pizza. So an improper fraction looks like this, where it's a fraction where the numerator is larger than the denominator. And a mixed number is when I'm combining a whole part and adding it to a fractional part. All right? And it turns out that these two guys are the same. So for an improper fraction, the way that we can convert it to its mixed number, so let's start this way first because it's easier to kind of consider, is just to do the long division. We're talking about 3 divided into 7. 3 goes into 7 2 full times, and we have a remainder of 1. So we're talking about 2 full pizzas and 1/3 of another. So 7/3 converts to 2 and 1/3 as a mixed number. Now a mixed number, converting it to that guy, there's a little trick of the trade. Let me go ahead and share that trick with you first, and then I'll explain it to you. But the idea is you multiply the whole number to the fraction, and then you take that result and you add it. Sometimes I see students doing that. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 gives us 7/3. So that's basically the trick. But here's why it works, right? So earlier what I told you is 2 and 1/3 is the same thing as saying 2 plus 1/3. So essentially what we're doing is we're adding fractions, especially when you see 2 and you rewrite it as the fraction 2 over 1. Now as we saw earlier, what I need to add fractions, I need an LCD. In this case the LCD is 3. This fraction already has it, so I don't need to change it. But this fraction, I need to convert it, and so I'll multiply both top and bottom by 3 over 3. And that gives us 6 over 3 plus 1 over 3. And you can kind of see embedded in this, right, the 2 times the 3, that's where the 6 came from, right? And that's where that 6 comes from the work. We're basically multiplying top and bottom by 3, so that my denominator shares the same denominator. But then to be equivalent, I have to do the numerator by the same thing, so equivalent fractions again. And so again, I have the same denominator, and I'll just add up what I have, getting a 7/3. And so there's the actual longhand work of why that little trick works. So it's just basically multiply the denominator to the numerator, and then add to the, let me check that. Multiply the whole number to the denominator, and then add that to your numerator. That's the correct way to say it. So let's practice this a couple more times. So if I have something like 4 and 2/3, right, the little trick is to multiply, add as we go. So kind of up this way. So 4 times 3 is 12, and then adding this, so that's 12 plus 2, and then we're all over the 3, giving us 14/3. Of course, you can check that if we went back in reverse. 3 goes into 14, 4 full times, right, with a remainder of 12. So we have 4 and 2/3. So I'm kind of going back and forth. One more time. Let's say we had 5 and 3/7. All right, so again, we're going to multiply the whole number to the denominator, add to the numerator, kind of going up. So 5 times 3 is 35, plus 3, and that's all over our 7. And so we get 38 over 7 as the improper fraction. Of course, going back, if we do the division, 7 into 38 goes in 5 full times, with a remainder of 5. And so we get 5 and 5/7. So there's basically how we go back and forth between mixed numbers and improper fractions. So now that we know how to do that skill, we're ready to talk about how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide these things. So I'm going to do that in another video because this one's already getting a little long. So I'll see you in the next video. Well done.